Hey you, subscribe.
So I don't know if I'm killing... I was going to say, I don't know if this is killing all credibility, but being that you're like the only person ever to cosplay as a Robo Force character, I think that adds like tons of credibility to this. That's
I really kind of just consider myself a casual fan.
You're way more of a fan than I am. I can name like 2.
It ain't easy. It ain't easy. They're not exactly that memorable and all. But yeah, man, this is it. This rocks. This is Robo Force rock and roll right here.
Wow.
Yeah, awesome.
If I already knew you did this, and I know the level of effort that it must have taken to build that, but I could like really totally almost think that I was being trolled right now. That's
well, that's the whole idea.
Yeah. That's pretty amazing. Actually,
I was sort of trolling the My Little Pony convention. Actually, you wear something like this to any convention, and you're trolling the whole freaking convention.
Yeah. Wow. I just put a full size. Of course, I'm recording video. I just did like a full screen video of this, and that's amazing.
Oh, rock on! Yeah, it took like a week. I mean, I woke up last Sunday and thought, you know what? I mean, like 2 Sundays ago, I'm like, this needs to be done. This needs to be done for the fans,
Wow.
And then, like, you get there, and then you kind of find out there's no fans. I don't know.
That's amazing. So how long did you say it took to put that together?
About 2 to 3 hours a day for about a week. So what? 2, 3 times 5, 10 hours maybe. It's really, honestly, Brian. It's kind of easy when you already have a template. And a long time ago, there was a Robo Force pop-out book where you could make little paper models. And so all I did was blow up the paper models from the pop-out book that already existed,
That's fantastic.
And so, yeah, once you got this, it's cake after that. Once you got, like, the helmet and the chest, then there you go,
And you're, like, super capable with doing stuff like that anyway, so...
I don't know. It didn't seem all that hard to me since most of the work was already done. And you just got to be resourceful, You just got to be able to you have a lot of cardboard lying around, too, And... and pay $80 for a whole bunch of duct tape and what the arms were my ultimate triumph. They're like there's this crinkly machine clothes dryer pipe stuff.
Yeah.
And I just wrapped that in tape, and there you go. The only existing, well, that I know of, Robo Force costume in the universe.
Wow, that's
Yeah, it's the ultimate trolling of any sort of fandom.
Yeah, actually, I guess well, obviously I'm not going to go cosplay as like Mazinger Z, but if I was going and cosplaying as Mazinger Z, I would insist that I was like Transwar Z.
Oh, dude, yeah, no, my original intention when I was inspired to do this kind of crap was go as Transwar Z,
Yes.
to do that, and then it seemed too well, not that Transwar Z is mainstream, but it seemed like so mainstream of a character, even though it's like the American Mazinger.
Yeah.
That I thought, well, too many people are gonna like that, too many people are gonna recognize that, and I'm like, well, screw that. Well, not screw that. I love Transwar Z. We are big Transwar Z fans here in my house. But I thought, no, what is more ridiculous? What is more out there? What is more, just obscure to the point of people not knowing what the heck is going on when they see it walking down the aisle?
I'm still impressed. I can't get past the.
Well, the idea was to make like a tribute to all the crappy cardboard costumes that you see at conventions. That it all came out good is sort of wrong or unintended. But so yeah, it's just, I guess it's shiny. People like shiny, and if they equate shiny with good, so you know how that is. Japanese people are like that too.
So you want to proceed in costume or?
Oh, hell yeah.
Okay, perfect.
You don't see that every day.
Okay, so tell us first about yourself before we get to the meat of things.
Oh, well, I am 100, leader of the evil robot empire. Yeah, that was kind of like a scary thing that I was worried. You make a freaking costume like this, and then people are going to expect you to be in character, and then you kind of realize nobody knows what the hell 100 is. But yeah, let's see. As far as Steve,
Yes.
just kind of like geez, I don't know, a casual Transformer fan, really. That didn't find a niche, so he made a Robo Force costume. That's good enough. That works for me.
You're totally niche. I've used your like blogs and websites and posts for years to like. I mean,
well, I appreciate that because yeah, you know, for just when I'm digging stuff up. My audience is quite small and limited, like the couple of Facebook friends I have and one or two hits to my personal blog. Mm-hmm. And then if you can take things and then give them like the wider audience, I kind of feel like at the end of the day that this got found, you know, somebody saw this. That's kind of fantastic. You like the amplifier, the boostification, you know.
I love your stuff, and I'm like really bad about following blogs, but having your Facebook page for the blog really just makes it visible for me because I do check out Facebook occasionally, and there's just some really great stuff. Especially, I've always loved the ads because there's just so much information you can sort of infer from ads.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, so as far as, yeah, it's like who I am and what I do as a fan of things, that's probably the best way to explain, like, okay, so what does this guy do? You know, like, everybody knows who Brian Kilby is, everybody knows who Zobivore is, you know? But as for me, I think the thing that I did, my claim to fame, the one or two tiny things that I have done in my life of note, is dig up old ads for toy robots, specifically starting with Transformers. When I first found out you could go to the library and then look at microfilm of ages ago, decades ago, 1985 or whatever, I figured, man, wouldn't it be really cool to find old Transformer ads? So around 2000, I remember I used to be in the Air Force, and I remember clearly that night that I got the idea, you know, this needs to be a website. I need to put a whole bunch of ads that I found together, because all I would do, because I was really happy just collecting these scans of microfilm or printouts of microfilm at the time it was, and keeping them to myself, you know, because when you think about it, so what? It's just an ad, you know. People love like catalog scans. That's sexy, exciting, you know. Robots in color from a long time ago. That's where it's at. But so when you're going back and printing up monochrome sort of scans off of old microfilm machines at the library, that's not as dynamic or fun. But I kind of kept at it, you know. I kind of kept doing it for, I don't know, well, because I'm autistic, I guess. And I found along the way that you could learn a couple things. The sort of the reason that newspaper ads are a little bit more exciting to me than what you could do with catalogs like Wish Books and department store catalogs is because they have sort of like, well, what I call chronological resolution. They're a lot more finely placed in time. So, like you said, certain things can be inferred, and certain tidbits of knowledge can be gleaned from this sort of thing. And so I started running with it, you know, and really just instead of grabbing maybe one or two ads that I saw just from maybe Black Fridays are always really big, so I used to always just go to Black Friday, see one or two kind of dynamic-looking Transformer ads, and call it a day. But then I started saying, well, there's certain things here happening in these ads that are running counter to what I kind of thought I knew about these toy lines. And that is where I think I made my niche. Although, I guess if you ask different people, because kind of like different people from the internet know me for different things. Like if I'm at BotCon, I did once, I was really sad and lonely once when we were living over in Turkey. And so I'm there by myself and doing nothing pretty much, and then I got all like obsessed with that the Super Famicom game Mystery of Convoy,
Yes, I've
and
got a copy right here. Yeah.
yeah. So I started like doing up a guide, sort of a run through of Mystery of Convoy of all things, the like worst freaking 8-bit Transformer game ever, and I didn't really think much of it after that. But I put that up, and then like years later at BotCon, there's this one guy who he figured out who I was, and he was just like all really excited that I was the guy who put together the Mystery of Convoy thing. So like it's the different. I have, instead of like one big thing like RFC is to you, like everybody will always know Brian Kilby as not only our friend but the guy who created RFC.
3 people remember that, but thank you.
Well, I have kind of all these different facets, you know. It's like not just one little thing, but the ads thing is probably what I'm most proud of, that little addiction, that little ridiculousness, because I've been able to figure out a couple things here and there about Transformers that I didn't really know the first time when I was living it back in the day.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you can't, that's the nature of advertising. You can't look at ads without becoming obsessed by that which is being advertised. And so it's like this whole, even this getup, this ridiculousness right here is kind of a manifestation of that. Because after a while, Transformers, well, I of course, I love that. First and foremost, the Transformers is always a big part of everything. But then I started going, well, why not Transformers? Because so many ads were passing me by on those newspapers, on those reels, that I thought, well, there were a whole bunch of toy robot lines I remember as a kid, and here they are too. Why just, keep your fascination narrowed to that one specific thing? And then, so I started, instead of just archiving and saving the Transformers, I started like doing everything that I remembered from that period of my childhood, from around 87 to, well, from 77 to 87. And again, it's infectious. You see a Robo Force ad, and next thing you know, you're building costumes and going to My Little Pony conventions. It's a terrible hobby. It's a terrible hobby.
So, I wanted to ask a few questions like about Robo Force. So, I mean, like you said, you're kind of a casual fan, but I'm like worse than a nostalgia fan, because at least a nostalgia fan with Transformers can name like 3 or 4 Transformers. I can name Max Steel and like 100. And yeah, of course there are fewer Robo Force characters, but it's always something that just like really fascinates me. And I saw that you had a theory as to why Hasbro bought out, was it Ideal?
Well, oh, yeah, okay, yeah. So what's strange to me, and I'll try and sort of preface this with, there are certain established things that we know, okay, about Robo Force, and we know that Robo Force was a line created and produced, so on and so forth, by Ideal, which at the time was a subsidiary of a larger company called CBS Toys. Okay, so they must have had their ideas. The Robot Mania was really big back in the early 80s. So Ideal went ahead with this what seems to be a continuation or an evolution of a line of robots that they had originally introduced back in '68 called the Zeroids. Okay, it's a kind of weird-looking legless, rolling around robots that their bodies end in pretty much stumps. They have no really discernible faces, but they've got arms, so they're somewhat humanoid. Well, Zeroids goes on for a couple of years, then they cancel it. They try and resurrect it around Star Wars time as a toy line called Star Team, and then that dies, of course. And then in '84, just for whatever reason, I guess everybody had robots on their brain, Ideal decides to come out with a line very reminiscent to what they had done previously with Zeroids, except they call it Robo Force this time. Okay, the gimmick or the idea being that these are about 5-inch tall robots with little suction cup bottoms, again legless, fairly humanoid with not really discernible faces, very much in the vein of what they had done before. And then they released this in '84 alongside GoBots and Transformers. Now, okay, from here on out though, it's all speculation as to what happened. Okay, because they didn't last more than about a year and a half. Robo Force did not make it to, well, let's just say the prototypes that were pictured in the 1985 Ideal catalog did not see mass release. In fact, most people believe the second wave of Robo Force, that is the 1985 line, was never released at all. That's the standard, fan conventional wisdom, okay? And then you have me, okay? At this point, let's see, at this point, 20 some odd years later, the conventional wisdom is Robo Force died because Transformers were cooler, because even GoBots were considered cooler than Robo Force.
No way.
No, yeah, I hear a lot of crazy things from a lot of people. And yeah, it sucks. It stabs me in the heart to hear such blasphemies. But you can't blame people. I mean, that's the thing about being a fan of something that ceased to exist 25 years ago. Like, whose opinion is any more right than the other? All we know is that this thing didn't continue after 1985. But what people fail to realize out there in internet land, and it does kind of tick me off a little, does kind of bother me when people say, oh, well, obviously RoboForce sucked. It must have been a victim of the Transformers being so much cooler, which is what people say for every freaking robot line that was not Transformers back in the day.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, Transformers were great and all, but come on. In the big scheme of things, Transformers were not like the greatest action figure line of the 80s either. So I don't want to hear how like a third or fourth place finishing in the sales line is the reason that RoboForce or GoBots or whatever died. No, it was par for the course. Okay, a couple of reasons lines would not continue beyond let's say second, third, or fourth year, and the number one being, well, that's just how it was. A lot of toy lines don't see more than a year. Okay, and two, competition kills them. Okay, I give you that. That's possible as well. Or three, here's the conspiracy theory. Here's possibly the most true thing that, sort of correlates more with establishable, readable off of Wikipedia-able facts here. And the truth is that in 1985, Hasbro bought CBS Toys, of which Ideal was a subsidiary. And so it seems awful strange to me that Ideal, who had all these plans for this line, including toys that made it all the way to the final package stage, it seems just very odd to me that they would call it quits all of a sudden. But then things fall into place when you realize that it was Hasbro that bought CBS, and Hasbro with their Transformers and I don't mean to rag on Hasbro or the Transformers, okay? Because, like I said, I love them. I love them. They're like the reason I ever got into robots in the first place. But look at this. Look at the facts. And knowing that Hasbro is as Hasbro is, and the sneaky crap Hasbro does, even today, like, well, you remember, I guess the Universe recently, there was Inferno and who was it? There were two of them that had like Machine Robo Rescue tampoed on them. The Lamborghini and there was another one. And Machine Robo Rescue or MRR, I thought was like a Tonka term. But people are always stealing trademarks from each other and putting them on each other's robots so that the competitor can't keep the other. Well, okay. Anyways, getting sidetracked here. My conspiracy theory has to do with the Hasbro of the 80s, not of the 2000s. But it's established practice that these guys are pretty cutthroat. The industry, the cutthroat industry. Well, Hasbro bought CBS, and CBS had RoboForce. And I don't care what you think RoboForce did in terms of sales and everything, to have it aborted like halfway through the life of the line, it's hard because, like I say again, this is speculation. But to have it aborted so soon after it was launched. I mean, it had the cartoon, it had a ton of books and tie-in media and stuff. Just to have it aborted so quickly seems odd, even for a line back in the 80s when toy lines didn't last a year, 2 years. I think what happened, my theory here, my truth, my hidden truth that Hasbro would want me silenced for, is that I think Hasbro made a corporate decision after taking over CBS Toys to cancel the Robo Force line because it was such a threat to the popularity of the Transformers.
Maybe.
Now, the big deal here, the problem that Transformers always had, well, at least in the early 80s, at least in 1984, 85, was the GoBots were beating them in terms of sales when you talk about per unit, you know? So a lot of kids, everybody had GoBots. There were tons of GoBots. And so Hasbro was really lacking in the kind of younger kid demographic. GoBots were kind of beating them at that. And I think Robo Force was carving out a pretty decent niche because they're awesome freaking toys. Robo Force is awesome for 5-year-olds. You can play with a Robo Force toy at the age of like 3 to 5 to 6 and beat the hell out of it, and it doesn't break.
Though growing up, like this old lady at the church I went to as a child when I went to church, sat on my Max Steel, and she broke the hinge on his chest. And I am assuming today she is no longer with us, and hopefully she found forgiveness with her deity. Otherwise, I don't know where she is. So
that's pretty heinous. That is a pretty heinous crime against humanity and all that is good and decent in the world of people who love robots. But you're probably not going to have too hard of a time tracking down even a brand new Max.
Yeah, I got one for like $5 on eBay. I came close to getting the phone. It's like still in box, and it was like $25 or $30, and I didn't move on it. I really want the servant robot, but I don't want to spend like $3,000 on it.
Oh yeah, the personal Max Steel robot. Yeah, that'd be cool. That'd be an idea. That's kind of like the Holy Grail there. That's the Fortress Maximus of the Robo Force line.
Oh, but way more pricey.
That's what was kind of weird about this, though. Robo Force existed across multiple product lines. It wasn't just primarily a toy line. It had erector sets, and again the personal robot Max Steel, and all these other strange kind of tie-ins that used the brand in really different, weird, kind of interesting ways. Oh, I was gonna say, you should have grabbed that phone at like $30 because now everybody on eBay is talking about how the Max Steel phone was on Big Bang Theory.
Yeah, I saw that. I wish I had.
And it would not just that one guy that I had written about. I started kind of noticing a trend here. Like everybody who has a Max Steel phone is citing Big Bang Theory and wanting $30-$40 for a loose one with missing stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't want that. So I was thinking about on the drive home from work. So Matt Tracker made it into G.I. Joe. But and of course, you know, Hasbro owns Mask. It was Kenner originally, right?
Yeah, it was Kenner. Yeah, Kenner original.
Yeah, so but they own Mask, and GoBots have sort of made it into Transformers. Some of the names and stuff. Could Robo Force make it into Transformers? Maybe, possibly.
There's kind of a weird situation with some of the names, because in the I think it was late '90s or early 2000s, Mattel came out with a line called Max Steel.
Oh yes.
They used the name. They didn't spell it exactly the same, but they kind of used a lot of very similar sort of sounding names and intellectual property sort of kind of straddling that line there in terms of character, not likenesses, because it was all a human being baseline, but they had a lot of the trademarks that you and I would sort of consider the strongest things you would recognize RoboForce by.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's going to happen. I guess there is still sort of a fuzzy area now as to who owns. It's very similar, I guess, to the GoBots in that, you know, the names are somewhere and the toys must be somewhere else. I really doubt that Hasbro gives a crap about RoboForce.
They should. I mean, well, here's the thing. So we're at the point now, like, you know, we talk about all the time, that the guys who are at Hasbro now are people who grew up on this stuff. I'm certain there are people at Hasbro who love Robo Force. Maybe not as much as you, but...
Well, like I say, again, I'm kind of a casual fan. I don't like have everything. But, you know, honestly, Brian, it's really kind of a kiddie line. It's kind of like for little kids. I mean, the Transformers, you could, I mean, appreciate all the way up to, heck, your early teens, but Robo Force is very much, well, I don't know, it was marketed, at least, to be very fun and I'm not going to say immature, but it had a very kind of Looney Tunes aspect to it, at least in the little pack-in comics and stuff. So it's kind of like it's very hard for me to imagine there being like an up-to-date kind of modern gritty take on Robo Force.
It doesn't have to be gritty though. It could be like My Little Pony: Friendship is Magic. It can be tongue-in-cheek.
Yeah, I don't know. I think some things are probably best left just dead.
Okay.
I don't know. It's tough. It's tough. I mean, I don't want to hoard it like it's something that can only belong to people our age, but it's fine exactly as it is right now. My son loves it, and he's a big part of, you know, that contagious enthusiasm that gets me excited about it. And yeah, I'm happy with where it is because it's easy to get for me, at least on eBay. We can add to the collection and appreciate all the different you know, manifestations of it. And I'm not I don't have to worry about Toys R Us exclusive Robo Force figures for $130. You know,
not yet.
Eh.
No, probably. I guess not. I maybe not. I don't know. Wow.
It sucks collecting robot toys today. It really does.
Yeah. Well, unless you're collecting vintage G1 stuff, because the prices pretty much hit rock bottom.
Oh yeah, you ain't kidding. Yeah, you ain't kidding.
Unless you want to buy it sealed. I mean, then like, well, actually, if you want to collect Japanese G1 stuff, it sucks. But if you want to collect American G1 stuff, it's pretty simple. It's pretty easy. It's not like 1999 when you're paying like $70 or $80 for a beat up Mirage, which I did.
I hated those days. Well, but then on the other hand, in terms of Transformers, I kind of saw the writing on the wall, so I tried to complete my collection as fast as I could, so that I wouldn't be impacted by like reissues or fakes or stuff. So I kind of finished off 84 and 85 by about 2000 before the reissues started hitting. So I know my stuff is real, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of happy about that. But I did take it in the butt with the pricing on a lot of loose stuff.
Yeah, it was crazy. Of course, now the reissues go more than the G1, the original stuff in many cases. It's really odd. It's just really weird. I guess it's because they don't, you know, buyers don't want to think that their toy was up another kid's butt at some point or something. Which
or some kids, like, you know, took them into the bathrooms with them. You know, took a shower. And
no, I did.
Other ridiculous, disgusting stuff.
Yeah,
it happened. Yeah, it's everybody just wants the thing. They just want the thing. They don't care how old it is as long as it's in good shape. You know, just to have a piece of the action, you know. And with Robo Force, you can still do that and have the original, and it's only be like $30.
Yeah, I mean, I'd hate to see the kid that had this up his butt. I mean, it's pretty substantial.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
So, anything else that while we're here that you wanna bring up? I haven't had a chance to actually speak with you in person or anything, and like. Since BotCon 2010.
Yeah, where's my shirt, man? I told you, shirts are the way to go. Shirts are the way to merchandise RFC.
Yeah, I need to do that.
You need shirts.
Nobody would... I don't want to give away shirts. Nobody would buy shirts, so... Shirts are expensive.
Yeah, I guess so.
I was looking at doing USB thumb drives that are branded to give those away and have shows on them, but basically people just take those and erase them, and nobody would ever listen to them.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I'm still kind of riding high off of the accomplishment that is this greatness, this costume. The whole reason for building it was, of course, not just to make an idiot of myself on Radio Free Cybertron, but to go to a convention that happened this past weekend. And I I kind of, really wanted, like I said, the intention was at first to just do it for the Robo Force fans and, just be awesome and trollish to other fandoms. But, to kind of spread the word of Robo Force. But I found it as the day went on, I got more and more upset with everybody not recognizing the robot. And I can't, it's like, what do you expect, Steve? What do you expect? No, nobody's going to know this. And at first that was exciting and invigorating, and, that was the whole idea, to say, hey, look at me. But after about the 10th person, saying, what is that? And I'm like, freaking, it's Robo Force. It's right here on my chest. They'd still ask me, like, oh, what is that from? And which robot is that? Can I just call you Robot? It started kind of getting to me, just a little bit, just a little tiny bit. But I thought, okay, well, these are kids, these are like 19, early 20-year-olds. How are they gonna know, Steve? You just gotta, just go with it. Just spread the word, spread the gospel. Be cool, be awesome, be Mr. Robot. Let them know about Robo Force. And then I start seeing people that were like my age, and then they're asking me, what is that from? And then just the anger starts welling up inside me. And so what seemed to me to be a good idea just started turning into chaos. And then by about the 4th hour, when there were these two women who said, oh my God, that is so, it's so cute. What is that? And we went through that all over again. I said, well, Robo Force, 1984 and all. And I was, being sincere and earnest in my attempts to educate the masses, and the only thing she can come back at me with, did you drive here and that? And then her friends all, he didn't have to drive, he turns into a car. And I'm like, Robo Force does not turn into cars!
They have vehicles!
Duh! It kind of, it turned into like this really just angry mess, just this angry, sad 100. I turned into 100 is what happened. I hated everybody and everything by the time I was done. So trolling is tough, and I guess I just don't have what it takes to kind of do it really correctly, because I went there sincerely, trying to rekindle the magic, but I guess really just an obscure robot bad guy from an unknown toy line really isn't the way to go if you want to have fun.
Yeah, I guess not. That's better. It's good that you've learned that lesson and shared it with us, so that we don't make the same mistake that you did, Steve.
Or at least don't go to My Little Pony convention, essentially, which is essentially what I did. Don't go to My Little Pony convention dressed like a robot.